Hi everyone, in this video we will be handling the post data that was being sent by our form to our Django project. In the last video what we did was we created a form that is posting data to our backend. At the moment, however, we are not handling that post request. To begin the actual development of any production code, we need to write our test first. This is test-driven development. We go to not our functional tests, but our unit tests. So let's open our tests file, list/tests.py, and in our home page, and then let's put our tests in our homepage test. In the first test, we test for the proper template used. In this next test, we should test if the homepage can handle a post request. So let's call it def test can save post request self. What we're going to do is, our response will be self.client. Instead of get, we are going to post. So in the first test, what we did was we used the get method because we were doing a get request. In the second one, we are using the post method because we are posting data. So again, we will use the root URL because we are on the home page. And then we send out the data that we need. To do that, we have to give it a keyword argument. This is called a keyword argument in Python, wherein you give the variable, the name of the parameter, which in this case is data, and then that expects an object or JSON object, wherein you have a key value pair. So it expects a key value pair. So our key would be item text, and our value would be a new list item. Obviously, we need an assertion, so we'll make an assertion here. Self.assert in, and then we'll check if our rendered HTML indeed has a new list item in our template that is rendered or returned to us. So assert in a new list item. We are checking if a new list item is in our response content, response.content.decode. So you've seen that before. Now with that test, let's try and just comment everything out so that we are not bothered by all the other tests. Let's run the test python manage.py test, and we would have an error because it is not found in our template. So because this is TDD, we need to be able to just let this pass with a minimum amount of work. Okay. So for the sake of simplicity, I will convert our home view back into a homepage view. Okay, so I will create a function-based variable view. Let's call it def homepage. Okay, let's do that again, which takes in a request object. And then again, because we are now using a function-based view, we will need to import our HTTP response. So from Django.http import HTTP response, and then we need the render function again. Django.shortcuts import render. Now in our home page, the quickest way to do this is first let's add back our rendered HTML. So let's return render a request and home.html. However, if the request method is post, we will render, or we will return an HTTP response that contains whatever is inside our item text data that was sent. Okay, which means I also need to change my urls.py. So from home view, from views, I will also import again home page. So the reason why I'm changing this back to use function-based views is so that I can show you the simplest way or the quickest way to change things. Later on, I will show you how this is done using a class-based view. So home view, we will delete this home view.asView because we will now be using again the home page method. Now we run our tests again, and everything passes. Okay, we are sure that our home page returns the correct HTML template and our post request is being handled by the server. Okay. However, this is not an ideal case. All we really did was to return that string. Okay. We need it to be rendered in our template. So we go back to our HTML templates, and then because we have our list here, obviously that item will be returned as a task, right? So that means it goes into a list item, and in Django we use what's called the handlebar syntax, wherein you have two curly braces, okay, and then inside it you could have Python variables, okay. So here and that Python variable is sent to it from the render function. So what we do is, let's say that variable is called new task, okay, which means that once the homepage variable or the homepage function returns our HTML, our task list method should have one list item or one task that would be called, if you look on the upper right corner, a new list item. So we need to adjust our unit test to enable this. Or we need to adjust it so that we are also sure that we're still using the proper templates. Self.assert template used, response, and home.html. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are testing that if we are posting data to our server, what we're getting back is still home.html. What we tested for a while ago was if we get, or if we made a request, a GET request to our home URL, we get home.html. What we're doing now is we're testing if we send a post request, do I still get home.html? So we can run that. And you can see that there is no template used to render the response. Okay, that is because we didn't render the HTML. Instead, when we posted, okay, going back to this lower left corner, all we did is send an HTTP response. So we just returned the text. So what we need to do is, again, to render. We render a request. Again, I will do a home.html because that is what we are rendering to return. But we will also add a key value pair that would contain the data that we want. Okay? In our template, we use the new task variable, which means that here our key needs to be new task. So that's a string. And then the value here is request.post and item text. Okay? Now if we test that again, we should get our two tests passing. And with that, you are now able to handle a post request using HTML forms or your templates and a function-based view.